Welcome to a new episode of Flowcast. Today we're meeting an artist who didn't just use his field recording, but he personally went to the Lech to see and listen to his segment of the river. Do you want to tell me something about you and what you do?
Sure, my name is Tim Wojcik, originally from the US and currently based in Weimar, Germany. I am a media artist with a background in experimental film and have been mostly working in sound for the last several years. I shifted more away from filmmaking and into sound work while I was back in the US in graduate school. I was kind of going through an artistic transition at the time, trying to bring more of my personal background and the importance that meditation, specifically Vipassana meditation, plays in my own life, and trying to create more of a energy that aligned with that in my filmmaking work. And at the same time, it happened to be the time period of the 2016 US presidential election, which was when the current US president came to power, and this was quite troubling for me in a variety of ways. And I found myself feeling like there was a ton of energy in the air of people talking at each other but not listening to each other. And I was struggling, feeling like I didn't know if I wanted to be another piece of chatter in that conversation. And so fortunately, I was starting to dig deeper into sound at the time. And in a sound class, I was introduced to deep listening, Pauline Oliveros, Francisco Lopez, as well as others, that really had a profound impact on me. And I started to find a very close connection with this type of sound art with my meditation practice.
That makes sense.
And so as I started to explore that for myself, I found that rivers were a real strong point of resonance for me. I spent a few months in Cologne in Germany, and during that time I did an audio map of the Rhine River, tracking it at about 12 points from Basel, Switzerland up to the Hook of Holland and going through Germany north. And that piece of work, I think, was the piece that really started changing my direction. And I found a deep connection with just listening to the river, listening to the subtlety, kind of almost the exaggerated sounds of using a hydrophone and pulling a lot more out that you wouldn't otherwise, hear with your naked ear. And yeah, so when I've been working primarily in sound in the last few years, and when I had the information about the Flow project, it really spoke to me as a chance to kind of push myself a little bit and not just record, capture, listen to the sounds of rivers, but also try to take it a step further and try to interpret the river in a different way, at least in a way that was new for me.
Yeah, in fact, the invitation was more to invite the artist to reflect and resonate with the river and kind of, let it trigger your sensibility towards the topics of ethic, ecology, anthropology that rotates around the river. And you chose to work on the segment of the Forest Experience Center, which it's in Austria, but it's on the border with Germany. And in the recording, there is no water because I took the recording on the tree walk. But in your final composition, there is water. Where is this water coming from?
The sounds of water in the piece are of the river itself. So I chose this section in particular because based on all of the materials you gave us and some additional research, it was clear that this was a pretty significant transition point in the river. Not only is it a border crossing, but also it marked a pretty clear shift in how the river is being handled by humanity and industrialization. In the Austrian side, it was quite left alone for the large part. And when you get into the German side, there's a lot of influence of man-made activity and industrialization and damming and so on. Even the Lech Falls, which are at the end of this piece, is a man-made waterfall. And for me, a big shift in how the river is treated from there north. And so it was important for me to go to the river itself. In the way that I work, I wanted to make sure I experienced the river myself and felt it from that level. And so I traveled to Füssen on one weekend in January and captured over the course of a single Saturday, starting actually in the reverse of how the piece is composed. So starting at the falls and working my way past the treetop walk and into the Austrian side, where the water is quite placid in the beginning. And there was a nice piece that you had shared from Giuseppe in section 9 that
Giuseppe Cordaro
had a particular resonance that spoke to me, and I felt like it was a nice transition point. So I started with his and then moved into the water on the Austrian side all the way along to the falls.
Yeah, the Austrian part is more natural, both because of morphological and anthropological reason, because that's in the mountain. Basically, it's mostly agriculture, and there are projects of restorations. Whereas the restoration projects are fewer and far between in Germany, and the impact is much more evident. It's basically an interrupted string of dams and reservoirs.
Yeah, so I was interested in kind of exploring the beginning of that, as I said, and I think the Lech Falls being such a prominent, beautiful location, but also distinctly man-made, really resonated for me as the end point of the piece.
And you took a sound from Giuseppe, which was the segment right before yours. The prominent feature of that section was a massive gravel factory. So I recorded me walking on the banks of the river, which is all gravelly, and in front of me was this sci-fi dystopic factory that basically processes the gravel that's been used for construction in the area.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful sound. I heard it and I knew I wanted to use it in some way, and when I decided to construct the piece geographically, I really like that contrast of this sort of dark, kind of droney resonance, almost dystopic sound shifting into the tranquil, almost placid water at the beginning of my piece.
One thing I noticed is that your intervention in terms of sounds that are not exactly the field recording is there. It's very subtle, but it's there. Why did you choose this approach of minimal artificial intervention, let's say?
I think what I was trying to do was to capture the experience I was having on the river that day and kind of go through the shifts and the changes, even to capture a little bit of the, passage of the day as it got chillier and towards sunset. And after chronologically building out my field recordings, it felt like there was something that wasn't quite there in the piece that matched the experience I was having on the day. And so I was playing with some different ideas, and I found it was really the bells in the on the treetop walk, the kind of the shimmering sound that served as a little bit of inspiration to kind of build on that a little bit. So it was a little bit of synthesizer and a little bit of theremin, and just to give a little extra element of what I was experiencing on that day, thinking through the industrialization of the area, thinking about the chill in the air, and tried to play with a couple ideas that sort of enhanced on what I had heard in my headphones. And this was a bit of a challenge for me because I'm reluctant to play with a lot of quote unquote inorganic sounds in my work. And at the same time, I'm manipulating the levels of all of this stuff, so it's all relative anyway. But I tried to find that balance of giving a little bit of extra to what I was experiencing and feeling at the time without losing the essence of the natural space.
So it's the sound of your head being in that time and space and condition mostly.
Yeah, for sure. I think the part where the shimmering of the bells, or my enhanced shimmering, for lack of a better way to put it, adding onto the bells is a good representation of that, where I was feeling these sounds and experiencing this, but sometimes that happens when you're in a sonic landscape. You're experiencing things beyond what the sounds are, and that was my attempt at trying to create something akin to that.
Yeah, I'm glad that this project gave you the opportunity to spend some quality time.
For me too. It was lovely.
Having this kind of almost meditative moments is increasingly rare. Yeah, maybe reflect. Like you said that you were reluctant in adding non-organic sounds, but then one might think, who says that a recording of a river took on a digital microphone and then passed through a cable into a computer and then projected to your computer via the internet is more organic than you playing a synth or a theremin?
Exactly. I mean, I was looking at photos from the day I was out recording, and I have 4 different microphones pointed in very specific directions coming off of the recorder. I'm at the very end of the piece. The sound is coming from a geophone that's just capturing the vibration of people walking along the bridge that no one walking along there is hearing, but of course it's the sound. It's part of all of it, and it's just as much of something that's real to that space, whether it's audible to people there or just in my headphones. And, it's up to us to take that and bring it in whatever direction we do.
Which leads to one of the main topics of the project, which is something that kind of emerged with every interview I made. Are we really talking about a contrast between nature and human when you can't really draw a clear line between the two? How can you say that something artificial is artificial and something that's natural is clearly natural without having any overlaps or at least any doubts at all?
Yeah, I don't think you can. I think you're right. And that also is sort of what makes it interesting to sort of wrestle with something that feels true to a natural space, but then also true to what you're experiencing. Gives a lot of leeway and a lot of room to kind of investigate and explore. I like to go underneath to the ground, to the water, and pull out sounds we wouldn't otherwise hear, but it can be taken in any number of directions, whether it's feedback or manipulation, and it's all, if we're creating meaning through that sonically, then it's something hopefully interesting, worth listening.
More about Tim's journey and his composition are available on our Substack page at artmusicscience.substack.com. Now, let's listen.